When looking at Stanley Kubrick's body of work, it's easy to miss Eyes Wide Shut at first glance. But it also happens to be my favorite of his. And it also happens to be his last film. By far, Kubrick's greatest cultural impact is 2001. Everything about that movie has inspired the greatest technological thinkers of our time by their own confessions. I mean, look at your iPhone and tell me that isn't the monolith, and how. But the second most influential is the staggering amount of people who have ripped off the Masquerade Mall, knowingly or not. It's the movie that introduced Tom Cruise and Nicole Kidman as star couple. It featured wonderful supporting performances by Sidney Pollack and a feature from Alan Cunningham. Famously, it took Kubrick 2 years to shoot. I think it was originally scheduled for 6 months, a year and a half over schedule. Eyes Wide Shut on the surface is about a doctor who checks women's breasts with a cold distance. He's a wealthy New Yorker with a stunning wife and beautiful children, so the perfect life. But while he's wealthy, he isn't among the rich and powerful whose wealth and lifestyle he admires and envies. After an argument and a discussion about the sexual appetites of men and women with his wife, the doctor partakes on a dark sexual odyssey in search of sex, power, and status. In other words, a feeling of importance. A chance encounter with a friend who plays piano at a jazz bar leads him to the famous masqueraded sex party, where he's warned by a mostly naked woman that the people know he wasn't invited there. He's in trouble. He isn't one of them as he so desperately wants to be. Eyes Wide Shut is well known to have been based on certain dream theories. And indeed, the movie feels like a dream, set in wintertime with colorful Christmas lights everywhere, creating a lucid tone, contrasted with scenes of muted colors that feel more awake. It's also been observed by Martin Scorsese that even though the movie looks and feels like it's set in New York, the street names aren't New York street names. In this and many other instances, Kubrick emphasizes the dream mythology better than perhaps any other film, because like a dream, everything feels real until you wake. That's not to say he never went to the party. It just means that the story is told lucidly, that there is no difference between what is real and what's fantasy. It's all the same. End and beginning, there's nothing. What bothers me the most is people either mistake this film as a wild sex adventure or are disappointed that it isn't enough of a wild sex adventure. See, I had one friend in high school who dismissed the film at its surface level explanation, and in 1999, expecting the return of the adult masterpiece like Bertolucci's Last Tango in Paris, critics were disappointed with how little sex there was in it. Go figure. In the first shot of Eyes Wide Shut, Nicole Kidman strips to her bare butt immediately until the party, and after that, pretty much nothing at all. And so it is the tension where the heart of the nearly 3-hour film lies, because the art is in the waiting. Tom Cruise ultimately isn't in search of sex that night. He seeks validation in all the wrong places. It's important to note that Eyes Wide Shut is Kubrick's final film, and in my opinion, a masterpiece. A story that I like, that I don't know is true, but that I like, is that Kubrick, ever the perfectionist, finally felt content with the movie he had made, and thus was able to relax and pass on in peace. He had made the perfect film. Argue that, of course, what is perfect? But if I were you, I'd trust his instinct. He knew what he was talking about. There's much more to Eyes Wide Shut than immediately, forgive me, meets the eyes.